to say what's on my mind at any given time of day, cause I'm a renegade. Never been afraid to holler about anything. Anything.
Welcome to the Renegade Report, where we're covering Seminole football from the cheap seats. Here are your hosts, Herc and Nobra Kai.
With Charles Kelly as the new defensive coordinator, will Jeremy Pruitt be missed? If so, exactly how much will he be missed? And Nobra Kai, you're going to speak for the homers on this subject, and I'll go ahead and represent the haters on this subject.
I don't think we're going to miss a beat with Charlie Davis, just because, one, he was on staff last year, and two, we returned so much talent that it's not like we're having to overhaul the entire defensive staff plus the talent on defense. Everyone is still here. We brought in a very good linebacker coach with experience to take over, and Charlie Kelly is going to go back and coach DBs. I think that Charlie Kelly, even though he doesn't have a ton of experience as defensive coordinator, you can just see the job he did at Georgia Tech the year before he came to Florida State. He was linebacker coach. Al Groh was fired as the defensive coordinator middle of the year, and you see a jump in not only Georgia Tech's ability to play defense, but you saw the number of points giving up, the number of yards giving up go down pretty considerable with him just taking over middle of the season. He actually spoke at a Texas camp over the summer, and pretty much from what everybody says and what you read, everyone was very enamored and very impressed with Charlie Kelly, from his ability to speak in front of a group, to talk and teach players and talk to coaches from Texas, especially since he's not from Texas. And so everyone that's come in contact with him says it was only a matter of time before he was a defensive coordinator anyway. And even then, if Jeremy Pruitt didn't take the defensive coordinator job at Georgia, Charlie Kelly might have been a candidate for that job anyway. So I think when you factor in that our coaching staff is still the same on the defensive side of the ball, we return a ton of talent, and Kelly was here last year, probably picked some things up from Pruitt, I don't really see us missing a beat whatsoever.
And on behalf of the haters, I would like to disagree. Strictly, for a few reasons. One, speaking to groups in Texas and talking X's and O's on a whiteboard, I will concede that. Charles Kelly, he has that knowledge. He's a smart guy. I will concede that point. But where I think Florida State is going to miss Jeremy Pruitt is because in-game adjustments, the ability to, what we always heard about Jeremy Pruitt is after every drive, he would bring the defense over, draw up every single play on the whiteboard, and make the corrections and the adjustments right then and there after every single drive. His ability to diagnose what the opposing offense was doing and make the in-game adjustments from one drive to the next is what proved to be invaluable for Florida State, especially when you go back to the national championship game, when you saw all of the busted coverages, to holding Auburn scoreless for 5 straight drives in the national championship game. We don't know that Charles Kelly has that same ability to draw it up Sunday through Friday and on the whiteboard and all of those type of things. Okay, I'll concede he has that knowledge, but on game day, on Saturday, in the heat of the moment, we don't know. And I don't want to hear about the 2012 at Georgia Tech, come in. He came in. How much of that was him, and how much of that was the players responding to no longer having Al Groh as their defensive coordinator, being able to run a simplified scheme? That we don't know. But if we're looking at Charles Kelly and his resume before those last 5 or 6 games or 7 games, whatever it was in 2012, defensive coordinator at Nicholls State and a defensive coordinator at Jacksonville State, I don't know if that resume speaks to him being able to be the defensive coordinator for the reigning and defending national champions with the best secondary in the country, and some would argue returning the best defense in the country.
Well, a counterpoint to that would be, now granted, I'll give you, Jeremy Pruitt did a tremendous job of in-game changes and being able to draw things on the whiteboard, but maybe Charles Kelly's better at actually game planning before the game. I was never truly impressed with a lot of the ways that Pruitt came out defensively. There was a reason why we had to go to a lot of adjustments. So to me, sure, Jeremy Pruitt was tremendous at adjusting in game. Maybe Charles Kelly better at game playing to start the game, so those won't be needed as much. Not to mention,
can I ask you a
look
question? Can I ask you a question? Did your lack of being impressed with Jeremy Pruitt at the start of the game, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of that stopped after the Boston College game, the third game of the season, correct?
Yes, that's very true. But I'm saying it took us 4 or 5 years. Now that was him probably still getting used to the personnel. We moved Christian Jones from middle linebacker down to defensive end. Love those changes. But to me, having Charles Kelly on that staff, him learning from Jeremy Pruitt, we always say we want to trust Jimbo. Well, Jimbo had no problem promoting Kelly to defensive coordinator, and he was the one that took the chance on Jeremy Pruitt bringing him in. So far for me, from a coaching standpoint, Jimbo's hit 100%. So I don't see there's no reason to think that this won't be a home run hire either.
So you would consider Greg Hudson a home run hire as well?
For a linebacker coach, I think he worked very well with Mark Stoops at the time. I think from a coordinator standpoint, I'll correct myself, say that from at least a coordinator standpoint on defense, he's hit home runs so far. I'll contend that Hudson wasn't probably the best coach at the time, but I don't think he was a bad coach either. I think that you can't really say he's made a bad coaching hire since he's been here.
Okay, I'll get back on topic. I just, I heard you say that about, he's hit a home run on every one, and I just wanted to point that one out. But going back to Charles Kelly, again, you used a lot of words like potentially and learn from Pruitt. So as with anything else, potential just means you haven't done it yet. And to this point, Charles Kelly hasn't done it yet. So that's why, as I'm representing the haters on this particular argument, I'm going to say the defense is going to take some steps back as Charles Kelly adjusts to find his rhythm, as he's dealing with, as offenses across the country are getting more complicated, as he's working with more talent, overall than he's ever had before throughout his coaching career at Georgia Tech and Nicholls State and Henderson State and Jacksonville State and Central, wherever that is. And, I won't count the graduate assistant year at Auburn because he was just a GA, so he really wasn't working with talent. So between finding his rhythm and learning how to move the chess pieces on the board the way that Jeremy Pruitt was able to do, I feel like this defense is going to take a couple of steps back, and that's going to cost Florida State some this season.
I could see that from you're saying what way you would think that, but I still, to this point, at least Charles Kelly has experience calling a game from a defensive coordinator's spot, whereas Jeremy Pruitt didn't at this level.
Touche. Fair point. I will concede that point, and I guess with that we'll both rest on this argument.